Okay, so this is a quick tutorial on all the video editing workings of Blender. Obviously we start Blender, and this is what it looks like typically. To get it into a form where we actually have videos instead of three-dimensional objects, we want to go up to the top left here and choose video editing. And yeah, this little panel on the top left is kind of useless, so I like to switch it to something else, like properties. That's awfully helpful. Before you want to import any video files to use for editing, and you can cut them and splice them with other things down here. But before you import anything, you want to change this frame rate to be whatever is appropriate for whatever video file you're importing. Also, you might want to change maybe the resolution. I typically just set to 720p. Note that actually changes the frame rate as well, so I gotta change the frame rate back to 30. Anyway, so yeah, I have my videos at 30 FPS. That's typically what I record them at. So when I go to import them, I need to use 30 FPS. Otherwise, the video will be artificially made longer than it should be. All right, so yeah. By the way you can check what your file frame rate is just by going to whatever video you want and clicking properties on it, having a look at the details, and it should say, alright, this one's 25 frames per second, this one is 30 frames per second. Anyway, so yeah, that's helpful. Anyway, yeah, let's add a video. So we go down here to add, this little toolbar here corresponds to this inside window, and like this toolbar here, and this corresponds to this window, and this one corresponds to this little window, and this one corresponds to this window. So yeah, anyway, we're going to add a movie, and where are we going to get it from? Let's get it from users, my user, videos, this one. So yeah, we add that, and alright, so it's added. Notice it comes in two pieces. The kind of green one is the audio, the blue one's the video. But you can select things with right click, and then you can move them with G, and then left click to drop them. Or you could right click and drag, and then left click to drop them. Yeah, both do the same thing. You can hit X and then click, or hit Enter to delete stuff. So yeah, I'm going to move this over here to the start of the video. And the start of the video is determined by this number down here. So start at frame 1, end at frame 250. You're probably going to want this to be your videos to be longer than 250 frames. That's really short. By the way, I find this helpful. I see the cursor displays in minutes and seconds. I like to switch it to frames so that I can put the cursor anywhere by left clicking, of course, and it'll tell me what frame number that is. So I can, like, say if I had another longer file here, I could zoom way out and say, it ends over here at some higher frame, and then type that frame in over here to make the video longer according to that frame. Okay, so what else? You can add audio. You can just go add sound and pick a sound file. Here's one. That's kind of a long sound file, so I can zoom out, see it. So yeah, maybe I want the video to end at the end of this sound file. So if I drag this about, I could put it somewhere. It's going to end at frame 7256, or I could look it up right here on the left. This is the length. Here's the start frame. Add those two numbers together, you get the end frame. Pretty helpful. Anyway, you can just pick the end frame to be, 7261, something like that. And now your video is this long, and of course you still have this is the only actual video part. The rest is audio. And yeah, you can hit play with Alt A, or you can hit the play button down here. But I like using Alt A because it doesn't shift the focus away from this window, and that allows me to use all the other shortcuts much easier. Like for instance, to cut a video, you can hit Shift K, and that will cut whatever video or audio is selected. And you can select multiple audio or video by holding down Shift and then selecting it. Select again is with right click. You can also use A to select or deselect everything, and you can use B to get a little cursor which lets you draw a box, and anything inside the box or partially inside the box will get selected when you use that. And then you can cut everything at one time if you want, just by hitting Shift K again. Yeah, and once again, your focus has to be on this window, so if you hit this play button, sometimes it won't respond to you hitting Shift K or something like that. So that's why I like using Alt A to play. Anyway, and let's see, what else? Yes. You're going to have to export your video after you get done editing it, obviously. And so to export your video, you are going to need to pick some presets that you're going to have to edit those in the properties window. Properties window should be by default on render, so you're going to be editing your render properties. Also, to actually do the rendering, you need to go up to this button up here where it says render, click on render obviously, and then click on render animation. That will actually start rendering the full animation with all the audio and all the settings that you've set down here. Over here, here are your render settings, basically, output settings. This is your output folder, so you can pick that. I just leave it as TMP on the C drive. You can also pick how it's exported. So, for instance, right now it's set to PNG, so it's going to be a series of PNG images when it gets published. That's not very helpful, so I like to set it to MPEG, which is a video format. You got video formats right here. I like to set it to MPEG, and then you can change your encoding settings. That's very important to do because by default your audio codec is none, so you don't have any audio in your video file. You need to change that to MP3 or something like that. I like MP3. It works. Why not? You can change this up. It doesn't really matter though. I mean, you can change it to QuickTime if you want, but that doesn't really affect anything. I just leave it at MPEG2 usually, and that or 4, one of those two. And yeah, there's some preset presets here like DVD. Yeah, DVD works. It exports stuff as a DVD file though, so it's kind of weird, but it's okay. Oh yeah, AVI also works. AVI is pretty good. Which once again you could just leave it on MPEG2 or MPEG4. Once again, I like to stick with MP3. I typically like a bitrate of 192 on the audio because I can't notice the difference when it's 384 or 192, and 384 is, you know, twice as much data, and you don't really notice the difference, so I don't care. And the buffer are typically the same. You can make it bigger, but I typically double just about all these other numbers. Like I double the maximum, I double the bitrate typically, because that's the sort of compression quality I like. It's difficult to get a feel for these numbers, like how good they're going to be. You just have to like export a bunch of small videos and say, you know, is that the quality I want? Is that acceptable? Obviously, larger bit rates, larger maximum rates, and larger buffers, stuff like that. Those are going to lead to larger file sizes, but higher quality. So it's a trade-off. You know, longer upload time, better looking. You know, what do you care about? It's not really going to affect render time much. Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's going to affect it much. Yeah, the important thing is just that it looks good, or it looks proper, and it doesn't take too long to upload. Those are the two more important things. And yeah, that's pretty much it for exporting. One more note, you can click on one of these arrows on an audio or video file, the arrows on the ends here, and then hit G to move the arrow around, and what that does is it leaves all this blue audio file. It's still there, all the data is still there. It's not going to get used though, and so you can edit the length of something without having to worry about losing data. So you could like edit it to be there and then go, oh, that's, you know, I cut it too early. That's okay, you know, I can, so cut too late, you know, that's okay, I can bring it over. You know, I can get all that audio data back. So if you're, you know, you're not sure about what you're editing, you can use that to preserve all the data. course, you can overlap stuff on top of that. No problem. And yeah, that's the major stuff. So, hope it's helpful.